Welcome back to Money and Medicine. In today's episode, we were discussing life cover and the importance of life cover. But before we start with the episode, I want to thank everybody that has already subscribed to the channel. The response that we've had was overwhelming. And thanks for everybody that's sharing our content. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so immediately. And like the notifications, because the notifications will alert you when we publish new content.
So today we're going to talk about life cover, how you quantify life cover. We're going to demystify this cover amount, because when we sit with clients and we ask, how did you get to that cover amount, or why was it advised? Very few clients can give you an exact answer. So that's something that we would like to do today. And it's basically built on 3 principles. First one being capital needs. So when we try to establish, the first step in this process is to establish the total need. We look at capital need, then we look at an income need, and then lastly, we also look at a legacy need. So very quickly, let's talk about capital needs. What is a capital need? Why would you need it? What does it normally entail?
That's usually, the capital need will be to settle debt. That will be usually an outstanding bond, an outstanding sale agreement on a car. It might be also to cover estate duty taxes that will accruing into your estate. Also to make provision for executors' fees.
Yes.
And funeral expenses to settle those debts. Because if you bequeath that asset to a spouse or to a partner, we want to make sure that those assets are debt-free, that they are paid off.
Definitely. And you don't also want to lose those assets. So I think life cover is a easy and a cheap way to take out cover in the event of something happening to you, to settle those debts so that your financial dependence, or the person that is financially dependent on you, can actually continue as usual. Let's talk about income needs. So typically, what would an income need look like?
An income need is when you are the main breadwinner, if I use that as an example. If you are providing for your family on a monthly basis, if something were to happen to you, we want to make sure that they can continue with that same lifestyle. We want to make enough provision for them to receive that same monthly income for a number of years. And that can be different for anybody. Some people would like to make provision for 5 years, for 10 years, or even into retirement. But what we usually do is we sit down and we determine, we usually call it the Needs and Earth Challenge, when we meet with spouses or partners. And we sit down and see, how much money would you need if your partner dies today? How much money would you need to maintain that same lifestyle? And also to make provision for children. That's very important. Stefan, you've got a boy that's 1.5 now, and you've just got a newborn. And an au pair is a very expensive expense that needs to be taken into account. And a lot of people neglect that.
Definitely. And in the previous episode, we spoke about income protection. We spoke about money machine, seeing yourself as a money machine. So you are not the only person dependent on that money machine. Your financial dependents, whether that is a child, or whether that is a spouse, or whether that is another family member, they are also dependent on that money machine. So if in the event of death, unfortunately dying too early, if that should occur, then you want that money machine made available to your family members, or to your direct family members. And that can then basically fund education. It can be used to fund an au pair, like you mentioned, because if one parent is taken away, you need a helping hand for the remaining parent that's left. It can also be used to fund future educational costs, like a tertiary education abroad. Those sort of details can also be embedded. If something should happen to you today, we want to make sure that all those future income earnings is basically net present value to today, to see what that would look like.
Yeah, it is very important, especially if one partner is at home and is not working.
Yes.
So for instance, let's take a husband and a wife example. If the husband is the main breadwinner and he's working, and the wife stays at home, or vice versa, then you don't want to force and put pressure on that other partner to go start an occupation again, go back to the industry after 5 or 10 years being a stay-at-home mom or a stay-at-home dad. Because that can be stressful. It's unnecessary strain being put on that family.
Yes, and I also, sorry to interrupt, I also think it's very important to define these income needs and realize that it can be flexible. Meaning that one income need can be for 5 years, another one can be for 10 years, another one can be more. Something can be escalating, another one doesn't have to be escalating, meaning that you might in year 1 need 10,000 Rand a month. In year 2, you might need 15,000 Rand a month. So those escalations in terms of the income need is also important, just to build a form of flexibility into this. And that's where planning is very crucial.
and also to revisit that plan to make sure that that's in line with your current needs at the moment.
Definitely.
And something that you have to take into account on that income need, and I see it quite often, is remember that the main assets will be settled. The biggest debt will be settled because we'll make provision for that in the capital need.
Yeah.
So when you do this calculation, remember, you won't be paying for that bond anymore. You won't be paying for that car anymore. It will be paid off. It will be settled with the capital need. So your income need is going to be much less than what it's currently in the current monthly environment. Because currently you might still pay that bond, you might still pay for that car. But when we settle those assets, it's purely just for household goods, maybe school fees, extramural activities, and OPE, groceries, water and lights, those kind of things, household provisions that you need to make sure that, because you want to make sure that your family can maintain the same level of lifestyle that they are currently.
Okay. So we've talked about capital needs, which is debt, estate, which is also an estate analysis is very important, but we will get into that into more detail when we speak specifically about estate planning. Income needs is your household provision. So let's talk about legacy.
So I think legacy is one of those things where we can't do any planning. So I can't tell you how much money you want to bequeath to a family member, for instance, a mom or a dad. And that's where our role basically stops. When I sit with clients and I say to them, if you don't have a capital need, if you don't have an income need, you basically don't need any life cover. But some people prefer to leave a legacy for their family. And on that legacy, that's something that's going to be personal to you. For instance, you want to leave 500,000 Rand to your mom or each sibling or whatever the case may be. But that's purely something that you can decide on yourself and see how you want to incorporate that into your plan. So once you've established the need, we have to also look at the provision, because some assets might have to be sold, or you won't need that asset anymore. We usually talk about lazy assets in the planning.
Yes.
Some assets, like for instance, if there's more than one car in a household, if one of the partners would pass away, you won't need all of those vehicles. So that will become a lazy asset, and you might basically just realize that asset and sell it and use some of that proceeds to pay off debt or to pay off that car, that the value that might be outstanding in that car.
Just on a word of caution, you might also need to look at, will that asset be sellable, if I can call it that? So it's easy to say in a will that you would like to sell this and this and this asset, but will you get market value for that asset? How easy is it to get rid of that asset in the event of a death? So, and if you get rid of that asset basically to make up for the need, how is the family members going to look at that? So that's why life cover is, again, a very nice tool to use, but there is sometimes assets that you can also use in terms of provision. I'm talking about a pension fund, looking at investments. It's also easy to get that money. So we refer to that as liquid money or liquid provision that you can use. So that's also a nice way
basically
to
assets that you can get, it's easy to get rid of them. It's easy to sell them.
Definitely.
And to realize that in hard cash to pay off whatever the need might be in that event.
Definitely. So I think, yes, to summarize, you get three types of needs: a capital need, income need, a legacy need. You quantify those values. You see what do you have in your provision. You need to specify that in a will. We will also do a nice podcast on will drafting and what is important stuff to include in your will. And then what is left over after you've provided for the need, that is the shortfall on life cover.
So that's just a few basics on life cover. So the next time somebody asks you, why do you have a specific amount of life cover, you will know exactly why that amount of life cover was recommended to you. But this is very basic. If you want to go deeper into this discussion, we are more than welcome to set up a meeting with you and to discuss your personal circumstances and to quantify an amount of life cover that's appealing to you. And then lastly, if you haven't done it at the beginning of this episode, please subscribe to the channel, subscribe to the notifications so you can get notified when we publish new content, and share it with any colleagues that you find might also value this kind of content. Until next time, thank you, and we look forward to sharing more content with you.
Thank you.